Hello, and welcome to another episode of On the Horizons. I'm Laura Meyer, founder and CEO of Envision Horizons. I'm here at the beautiful Amazon port at the Cannes Lions Festival, and I'm here with Meg Karwowski, perfect, founder and CEO of obviously one of the top influencer agencies out there. So thank you so much for joining me bright and early this morning.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So excited.
It's a pleasure. So I want to give you a lot of credit because in my mind, you are an absolute superwoman. You built and founded an amazing agency. You had a wonderful exit with WPP, and you are here at Cannes with a 3-month-old at home and a 2.5-year-old, right?
Yes.
Your oldest son?
Jack and Grant.
So, I mean, everyone asks this, but raw answer, like, how do you do it?
Raw, honest truth answer, I have a lot of help.
Yes.
So I have 2 nannies right now, and my parents moved them next door. So I mean, it takes a village. It truly takes a village. I'm not out here doing all of it by myself. I don't want to say that I set that example for sure. But and they're also just like the best kids. So it's, I'm like so excited to be here. And then I'm also like, send me photos.
It's such a double-edged sword.
On the Nanit being like, with just like little camera and over their bed. I'm like, are they sleeping?
Well, and so let's talk about your founder's journey.
Yep.
So you founded, obviously, 12 years ago?
Just about, 11.
Okay, so what was that journey? How did you get started?
So I got started in my apartment in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and I was doing social media marketing beforehand, and I really saw an opportunity all these brands were spending so much money growing their own social accounts, and it was like Facebook was really big then, and Instagram, and they were just like, let's get as many likes, as many follows as we possibly can. But I was like, there are all these people who are now just their own publishers, who are building their own cool audiences. We should actually be getting these brands building relationships with these people, and so then they're directly impacting their audiences. And that my big thing was scale. It's one thing to call up Kim Kardashian's agent. Kind of anyone can do that if you find the number. And
what is the number?
And they make it pretty available. But can you do that with 1,000 people?
Yeah.
Can you do that with 5,000 people? And so we really had that vision from really the beginning, in like 11 years ago. And it's just been so cool to see how everything's panned out. In Cannes this week, I mean, there are so many creators here. Yeah. When I first started coming 5 years ago, there were no creators. Everyone was like, influencers, what? So it's just been so awesome to see how the space has just skyrocketed in growth.
Yeah, and I forget what brand it is, but I saw on Instagram or LinkedIn that a brand is doing their first influencer trip to Cannes. And it was a beauty brand.
EOS? EOS.
Yeah, maybe
it's like the lip balm.
I mean, you would know.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah, the whole influencer. I mean, there are all these parts of culture now. Like influencer trips are just a part of culture. And so like, oh, I know where Tarte's going. I know where Poppy's doing.
Yes.
And it's just a whole part of marketing that really didn't exist,
and
10 years ago.
Yeah. And so Amazon has really come into the influencer game.
Yep.
And we see this all the time where if our clients have a really good influencer strategy, that causes such a lift in demand and fuels the Amazon flywheel.
Really?
So what are you seeing brands do to leverage that and take advantage of this new form of almost Amazon influencer?
Yeah, so we have a whole part of the company dedicated to Amazon. Amazon itself is actually one of our largest clients. Shout out to Amazon. We love them. Thanks for this podcast studio opportunity. And so we work with so many brands who are just like you, are trying to really grow and develop Amazon as their own distribution channel. So we actually have hundreds of thousands of creators who are Amazon creators. And we know how much engagement they get on their Amazon storefront. We interact with them frequently and have all of their analytics on what's really driving traffic, what's driving sales, what types of sales different influencers drive. And we're able to launch really seamless Amazon-specific campaigns to help in the rankings, to help with reviews, to help with awesome photos and videos, and number one, sales. And it's just it's a really fast-growing part of the business.
Yeah, and so if I'm a brand and I want to figure out how I can tie an influencer strategy into my overall Amazon business, where do I even begin?
So what we first do is we identify influencers who are on Amazon, who have an Amazon storefront, who like your product or are really interested in learning more. It's then sent through the whole Amazon system, and then all the tracking happens that way already through the great affiliate, tracking system Amazon has. So it's really, really seamless, even compared to other influencer work that we do. And then we say who's really interested, who wants to create content around this brand, who wants to tell their story of what they love about this product. And then we launch that. And I think the biggest thing that we really emphasize is it's great to really have some scale. A lot of brands are like, let's test, and they test with like 5 people. And then you're like, okay, well, we didn't actually test a large enough sample size of influencers to see like who's really driving the most revenue, who's really working. So we're like, let's do 25 people, let's do 50. We have many brands who are working with literally thousands of creators at a given time. And we handle all of that through our tech and our team. But then you really know, like moms in this segment of the United States are really gravitating to X product. And then we talk to them and ask why. And then we, iterate and do more and more, but you can really, really impact sales, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and with these Amazon influencers, I feel like everyone's trying to figure it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, are these your classic influencers where you have to pay them to post? Or are there those Amazon influencers that are okay just getting the affiliate fee?
Right.
Or affiliate kickback?
What's great about Amazon and working with creators on Amazon is that both exist. So outside of Amazon, it's primarily I need to be paid for my content. On Amazon, it's like the affiliate process is so easy.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people who are really fantastic and have built Amazon-specific audiences. So maybe they really have pretty small audiences on Instagram or on TikTok or on YouTube. But on Amazon, they're actually driving a lot of traffic, a lot of engagement to their storefront. And so we can do that really cost efficiently, which is, brands are very excited about that for sure. It's like a whole new group of, I actually consider it a different platform. Like Amazon's a different platform for influencers. And so you can do it, at a really reasonable cost, and all of it's trackable, which can be an issue when you're on other platforms.
Yeah. We all want to know what the ROI is.
Oh, definitely. That makes my job easier too. I'm like, look, we sold out of that product.
Right.
Like, do you want to do this again? And they're like, well, let me get enough product back.
And it's just such a seamless funnel. Like Amazon has done such an excellent job with just their transaction flow, your credit card, it's all right there.
Totally.
And so what would you say for brands that want to dip their toes in an Amazon influencer strategy? Like, you mentioned sample size. Like, what should you start with? And I'm sure it always depends.
Yep.
But if you're just, say, a mid-sized brand, what is a reasonable test budget or number of influencers that you should start with?
I start with at least 25 influencers. And you can do small audiences, bigger audience. You can play around with, can we do product and affiliate? Do we have some larger influencers who are paying as well? Which is really paying back for us? What strategy is working well? We actually do all of that mapping for our brands kind of before we start. So we're like, let's take some of your competitors. Let's see what some other people in your space are doing, what's working for them, what's not. And let's use that as a foundation for our strategy. Because you want to test and learn, but if you can take a lot of shortcuts before you test and learn, that's like really good. Really good too, because everyone wants results today, which I totally get. I do too. So that's really how we.
As a business owner,
yeah, exactly. I'm like,
yeah,
exactly. I'm like, first campaign, let's make sure that we're more than paying back, And so I think that's really important. And so many times, like Amazon is so vertically integrated that you can track everything within the system, which just doesn't exist in other types of marketing, And so we're like finding ways to track back and finding ways to put data together. But with Amazon, it's just all right there. So it's awesome. I know more brands should be doing this for sure.
I have been preaching Amazon influencers for the last few years on LinkedIn. But to a point you made earlier, one of the tough parts about influencer marketing is the scale.
Yep.
You have to deal with a lot of personalities when you're dealing with influencers. A lot of brands, I think, don't even know where to start when it comes from sourcing or who the right partners are.
Totally.
So in addition to that, at least 25 influencers to test, how else can brands get started?
Yeah, so I think a big thing that we really talk about is we create processes and automate with our technology as much as we possibly can so that we can focus on the relationship. So you're not just emailing and talking and like texting with a creator about, hey, did you get your package? Or like, hey, here's the creative brief. All of that's streamlined. So all the communications are around, did you like the product? Do you have any questions? Are there any things you had like issues with? Hey, we're having this event. We'd love to see you. Any feedback that you have for us? We'd love to actually have you create more content for the brand. So everything is really relationship based and building a stronger connection with that person who's really, really working for the brand rather than all of the communication. And I see this as like kind of a classic mistake that a lot of brands do is because it's just all of their communication is around the logistics, you know, so they're not actually like, oh wow, this person, like this brand's kind of harassing me if you're a creator, but instead you're like, oh, let's streamline, let's make that all really easy. So then all your communication is just around, hey, how do we work together? Yeah. Like how do we do more together? We love you, you know, like what else do you want to do with this brand? I think that's important.
Do you find in the Amazon influencer space with the brands that you work with, is it less about the content? Like with Instagram, right? There has to be, I'm sure, creative approval and a certain aesthetic, where with Amazon, are you seeing that still be the case? Or is it more like this is the right audience and let the creator have autonomy?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. So I think it's about the content, but the content that works is not necessarily the content that would be, you know, at Cannes winning awards.
Right.
It's the like, hey, I'm just talking, I'm just telling you, you know, I'm just being really authentic and true to your audience and who you normally are and talk about what you like and what you don't like. And that can really work the best. And then there's just the element of, are you getting into the Amazon storefronts of these influencers? Mm-hmm. So we have a whole just service where it's, maybe they're not even posting, but they're featuring it prominently. They're featuring your product prominently in their storefront. And if you can do that with 1,000 people, okay, that's actually like a ton of really great space on that person's page.
And how does a brand even go about negotiating that? Is it you give them a better affiliate rate? Is it you have to already have a high volume revenue product so they know they're going to be making great commission? Or are there placement fees? Or is it a little bit of
yeah, so it really, you break it down by tier. I think the big thing actually on Amazon is that this is still really new. So a lot of influencers are just really excited to be reached out to a brand who wants to do something with storefront, and rates actually are significantly less than if you're having them create a piece of content for TikTok, per se.
Right, it's dragging and dropping an ASIN.
Yeah, it's easy, and they want to build a relationship with the brand. So if you think about it from the creator's perspective, they're looking for those longer term brand partnerships with brands they love. You know, Kim from Bobby was just met here, and she is another podcast with you, which is awesome. Like, if I was a creator, I'd be like, oh my God, like I need to meet you. Yeah. And so you're gonna be willing to, it's a really easy ask just to add this to my storefront. I love it already, of course I'll do it. Awesome. So yeah, the ease of it is huge compared to, hey, can you make, you know, a long form YouTube video for me? Mm-hmm. That's just so much more time and effort. And so the compensation is definitely higher.
And okay, so I'm gonna change subject a little bit. I wanna talk to you about what you think the future of live shopping is. Like, is it possible for the United States to be as intense as China when it comes to live shopping?
Yeah.
And obviously Amazon has Amazon Live, there's TikTok Live, there's a lot of platforms emerging. Do you think this is a big influencer opportunity, or is it something that may die out?
I think it's a really big opportunity. I mean, we've, not to talk about other platforms, but we've seen a lot of success with TikTok Live and with shopping. I think that it just hasn't rolled out to enough creators, you know, the actual like seamless process. And Amazon Live is fantastic. You know, every time that we do an Amazon Live with a creator, there's a significant spike in sales, you know, for that item and product and brand. So I would love to see a lot more brands doing a lot more of it. It's
Me
still,
too.
yeah, I mean, it's still kind of early days for a lot of them, like, oh, what are we doing? Like, what is our Amazon strategy is really the question I'm getting from a lot of brands right now. I think in the next few years, you'll get brands just get really dialed in and have really advanced strategies. And that's great because we actually have a lot of things that we're like, yeah, let's do all like the black belt level of like, you know, Amazon influencer strategies. And most people are just kind of still dipping their toe in the water.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit, but of the Amazon influencer activations you've done, what has been one of your favorites?
We are doing a really, really cool thing actually with Amazon itself right now.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that helps.
Yeah. But I think it shows the scale. So we actually, there are over like 100,000 pieces of content that creators are making that we are now putting onto product pages on Amazon. And so that's just really helping drive sell-through when people land on the page. And I think that's one thing that a lot of brands don't realize is that creators can just make content for them. They don't necessarily have to be posting to TikTok or Instagram as well. And that's huge when you're really looking for like, hey, we need more creative to run more ads. And that's actually like a really integrated, great way to work.
Yeah, when I feel like there's this interesting dynamic happening where there's AI generated content and then there's UGC.
Yep.
And then there's really beautiful professional content. Of the three, I mean, what do you think really performs or is the future?
So I like to call it, and I think someone else told me this like this week, so I'm learning something I can.
Love it.
But CGC, so creator generated content, because I think UGC does work well when it's high enough quality. But typically, that's the real knock on a lot of UGC is that like the content's just not good enough.
Right.
It's not, TV commercial level, and that really doesn't perform that well either. But it has to be kind of like an elevated version of UGC, which is what creators know how to do. Because they've got the great ring light. They know how to create and edit great content that feels really raw and like you're there with them. Whereas a lot of just normal users don't know how to do that. So I think it's really in that little nuanced difference. But we see if you're a creator and you've been able to create an audience of 5,000 people, you're already doing content that's like good enough and polished enough to really work and to work better than say at UGC where you're like, this is not like, I don't want to put this on my page.
Looks like
this is
they
kind of
shot in
gross.
their basement.
Yeah, exactly. And then AI is really interesting because I think that's just developing really quickly, but you can tell bad AI generated content. I'm on TikTok. I'm like, I can't like just this talk track is clearly written by ChatGPT. Like it's just, it hurts your ears. It just sounds different. So I think that still has a ways to go, but I mean, we'll be working with that soon when it gets good enough.
Well, and now there's even these AI avatar influencers.
Yep.
Which, I mean, I guess that's been around for a few years now, but
yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially if creators kind of adopt their own avatar, because I think that is one issue for creator growth and to build their businesses. It's like, how am I literally 10 places at once? If an audience really does take to the avatar and that works well, I think that's going to be the real question. Like, is a cartoon version of Laura going to be as impactful as like actual version of you? So I think that's more of like a philosophical question but it will be cool to see.
It's like ABBA with their concert, how they did the holograms of themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's gonna. So I mean, maybe people will be excited about it, or maybe people will be like, it's a hologram, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I do really feel like after COVID, people crave in-person authenticity. And I'll be very curious to see what happens in the future if there's this whole change of actually going more in person versus digital. And I was at an event on Monday night, and they were talking how the trend in the event space is actually doing smaller, more intimate gatherings. And I think we're even seeing that with these influencer events.
Oh yeah, we do that with creators all the time. I think people are surprised at how many in real life activations we do with creators because they want to hang out with each other. They want to get to know each other. They really want to get to know the brand. They don't just want it to be on email. They don't just want it to be in like the DMs on Instagram.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things are done in real life that then are translated online. And that kind of performs really well. And to your point, I think the smaller, more intimate events, dinners, breakfasts is really the way to go. And that's more scalable too. Like let's do 10 of those rather than one giant event.
Yeah.
But even everyone takes a plane. It's like a lot of Americans here at the Cannes Festival. So it's like everyone gets on a plane and comes to the south of France. Everyone really wants to get together, and it's hey, we're in New York, we can meet there. But like, no, we want to be at a big party together.
Yeah, I was talking with some people earlier, and we're like, it's like adult summer camp here. and it seems like there's people who come every year. They're like, yeah, it's my reunion, even though someone lives like down the road from me in New York City. I only really see them here.
It's a funny phenomenon, but it's they're doing something right because it's pretty beautiful.
Yeah. And so to close out today's episode, again, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
What are some interesting things you've seen this year at Cannes, or any conversations that you've had or listened to that you're like, I'm taking that back with me?
I'm having a lot of great conversations with brands and like either brand partners or potential brand partners, and just really hearing their pain points has been huge. So like, hey, we need content a lot faster, or we need a lot more content, or we really need to understand how to do measurement better.
Yeah.
And so I think these are just like things that we can easily solve for. So it's really exciting to kind of hear like everything needs to be moving faster.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, cool, we can do that. Creators can do that for them. So it's
But is
exciting.
there a breaking point? Like, we can only go so fast as humans.
Yeah, I think that then the pendulum will swing back, and I think there's still people still want long form content. There's still awards being won for commercials that are making me cry when I watch them at the festival. So I think there's a place for everything, but I think that just life is moving so quickly. Everything on these platforms is moving so quickly. You see like a TikTok trend goes viral and then is over in 36 hours. I mean, if your brand is posting content about it 3 weeks later, you actually look really lame.
Yes.
So it's like there's some things like, hey, we got to solve for this. We have to be able to post on like the 36th hour, and so those are some of the things that we're solving for, which is really cool.
It's always fun when legal reviews involved.
Oh yeah, well that's part of it. 36 hours including legal review.
Yeah.
So that's
Amazing. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for joining me on the episode this morning.
Thanks so much.
And it was such a pleasure meeting you here at Cannes.
Yeah, likewise, such a highlight.
Thank you.
Thanks.